everybody. All right, the bottom line is this has been a huge elephant in the room for the show, largely because of me. I am repulsed by this subject matter. I don't understand why people are fascinated with it, and I have avoided learning about it, let alone discussing it, and the girls have appropriately corrected me that this is a national conversation for a reason, and Amy wants to jump in and explain her thoughts on why America is obsessed with this case. Amy?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for America as a whole. For me and the people I know, there's this morbid fascination with it for multiple reasons. And by the way, I don't purport to be an expert on this case, but I think there's a lot of overlap with the way people are viewing the Epstein conversation and the Diddy one. For example, the hidden power structures that could exist within Hollywood. You know, it was announced that there were like hundreds of hidden cameras inside of Diddy's house. I believe that some of this is still being contested. It's up for debate. That is the narrative, right? There are so many politicians who are at this party. Trump, the Clintons were there, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama. In a similar way that Epstein held political capital and blackmail leverage over these politicians, I think it's very, very likely that the Diddy parties existed to kind of do the same thing. The other element that is lesser so proven, and I don't even think this is going to be a discussion in the court cases because it kind of leads towards the more conspiratorial side, but there is something to be said about the occult and the way the occult sometimes rears its ugly head both politically in the entertainment industry and various other things, that I think there could be some element of that as well. Some actual evil.
What does that mean? I don't think I can see one more, and no offense, Jack. I feel like when the right starts throwing around demons all the time, you're losing me, guys. You're losing me. Like, when we get into the whole, like, it's demonic and...
Do you not believe that there are people who are in Hollywood, politicians, etc., who actually practice Satanism?
Not really.
You don't believe in that at all?
I just think it's a freedom.
But do you think whether or not you believe it isn't the question? The question is, what if they believe it?
Exactly.
But give me the evidence that they believe it. I grew up in California. These are people, yes, they're they pray to the God of the almighty dollar and power. And a lot of times when you have a lot of money...
These parties are the evidence, though. There's spirit cooking parties that have gone on. There are these types of parties that have gone on.
You can cook spirits?
You can literally... anyone can look this stuff up. That
I'm not going to try to make
Lady
fun.
Gaga and Marina Abramovich have been all involved with in where they invite Hollywood high-level celebrities to these things.
Do you think it's genuine and not just a show?
Wait, what the hell is spirit cooking? Hold on. Come on. Hold on. This is where you guys...
You're 4 minutes in.
Is it gluten-free or...
Well, thank you for backing me up, Jack. I appreciate it.
No, I'm just saying, these parties exist, the Bohemian Grove exists, all of these things exist. Whether it's real or not, right? We can set that aside.
Okay.
But what you can't say is that these parties aren't real and that there aren't people who do, and in the past, have given these things credence and believe that they have power and do take part in them.
You're saying like satanic parties?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you sure that it's genuine belief, or are they just putting on a show to entertain? Because I'm not convinced that Lady Gaga is actually a Satan worshiper. I think she just wants attention.
The struggle for
I think
me.
some of them are. Some people are probably more so puppets, but then I think there are a lot of people who do genuinely believe it. And I mean,
who though? Based on what though?
A lot of them believe that they need to literally sell their soul. They believe they need to sell their soul for some level of fame or power or whatever it is. And they believe that in doing that and undergoing these ritualistic practices that they will achieve their ends.
Where are you getting this from?
Have you ever looked into it there?
No, but I know they sell their soul. They sell their soul when they gave Harvey Weinstein, I don't want to say, favors.
Right.
Okay, bingo. So, but that's not Satanism. That's a casting couch.
Yeah.
Is it unfortunate? Yes. Is it gross and particularly dark? Yes. But is this a satanic ritual? You're losing me here.
Okay, could you believe, though, that for certain levels of people, they view it as sort of a rite of initiation? Like, we all did this,
evidence that
so
these
you had
people
to
do
this.
Can we bring this back down to earth and just talk about the more pragmatic
that's
issues?
what the case is all. That's literally what she's talking about.
Well,
that is this case.
The case is
That's
that
why people are interested in it.
Hollywood is fundamentally depraved. And I brought this up when we were talking about it earlier. I think the Democratic Party is almost complicit because they idolize these people.
Lindy, listen to me. I love you. We got to get off the bone with the Democratic Party a little bit. I get it. But let's... I could easily point to things the other side has done, and that's the go-to these days because they've wronged you so significantly, and I do appreciate it. But bring me back here.
Doesn't mean it's not true, though.
But you're comparing him. But I would say there's a parallel on the other side with politics. Period. So
I don't think this is a political issue. And
I don't see that.
I don't. Sure, you can believe in Satanism and other people who believe in Satanism. Put that aside, though, for a second. I want to just kind of focus on Cassie Ventura's testimony, what we learned about what, Sean Diddy Combs, whatever he likes to be called these days, did to her and was into himself. Whenever you have a situation in which someone has a tremendous amount of power, be it, Harvey Weinstein or Diddy in this case, they think that they're above the law and they can get away with anything. They have enough money and power to make anything go away. I just think he's a freak and likes to do weird, freaky things. And she was coerced, according to her, into doing these things. There were male escorts involved. There was smearing of male goo on him after all was said and done. He liked to sit back and watch her,
Sounds kind of ritualistic.
It's disgusting, whatever. Sure, if you want to call it ritualistic, fine, whatever. But it's just, I don't think he was under the impression that he would ever be held accountable for doing what he is accused of doing.
Without question, you're right on that. I would say also, just to speak to the part, because I know, we were all discussing last night, the girls are concerned, or the ladies are concerned, and rightfully so, that he could get off. And
he does get off, apparently. Quite a bit.
Sorry. I'm trying so hard to get through this segment. Can you help me, please? So, thanks a lot. It's just smearing of goo. You're killing me here, girl.
Sorry.
I did see an entire palette of, was it baby oil over there?
Stop?
They like baby oil, apparently, yeah.
Guys, okay. So.
Is that for later? Or,
oh my God.
I don't know.
So.
What goes on here after dark? I don't understand. I was invited.
He's got a pentagram back there.
I'm
Pentagon?
Catholic.
What is that
Okay,
thing?
wait a minute. Hold on.
Oh my God. Hold on. So there's definitely an argument that she was complicit because of texts, this, that, the other. I did see an expert explaining the fact that she would.
Have this out.
Dear
So
God,
we don't
I
have
would
the baby
actually.
oil,
I would.
Satanism.
That
Wasn't planning on bringing this up, but since we're here, it's gonna.
Not even gonna comment.
Counter that,
100%
is she said she had to do that because she was afraid that he was going to do it with another woman.
Well, wait.
Not only that, he also beat her, and we have video evidence of him
That's
doing
what I'm
that.
talking about. She would have to be complicit or agreeable or consensual is the word I'm looking for in every single incident.
Right.
In this one incident unto itself, they're in the middle of this freak off, and she's running for her friggin' life down the hall of the.
This is the elevator video.
Yeah.
Yes.
CNN thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't that say, all right, she was not down? And by the way, legally, just to make this point clear, that you can be in the middle of a sexual act and say no at any point, and then it's done. No means no. And if you continue, if the man continues or whoever continues at any moment after that, it is rape, period.
Right.
That is what the law says. So I don't understand why we think he's going to escape here. It's very clear in this moment she was done.
I think, he's charged with human trafficking, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And racketeering. Yes. I think the racketeering charge is probably going to be a little more difficult for the prosecution to prove.
Okay.
I think the human trafficking will probably be easier to prove because obviously there were transactions made. Male escorts were hired to engage in said, shenanigans.
Thank you.
And so we'll see how it all plays out. But so far in this case, the star witness has been Cassie Ventura. There hasn't really been a big witness testifying outside of Ventura. So we have to wait and see how the prosecution presents its case.
Wasn't there some information that came out when they were conducting voir dire, so when they were doing jury selection, they had to run people through, and I haven't been following this day to day, but they had to run people through different names of celebrities that might come up during the case.
I didn't know this.
And so,
Yeah, and they find it extremely difficult to find impartial jurors
Right.
for that reason,
Yeah.
right?
And I think that's more than anything why people are so interested in this case. It's,
sprawling,
obviously
it
we've seen
touches
his
everybody.
video, but
Like
it's
Britney
about
Spears is,
who was involved
mentioned
with this case,
because
what were
she
they
attended
doing.
a Diddy party.
Okay, but I'm sure a lot of people attended a Diddy party. We were discussing last night the fact that who's implicated from the Democratic Party because they're in a video or a picture. There's a poster of me next to this guy from a water deal that Mark Wahlberg invited me into, and I promise you, I was never a part of the freak-offs. I wasn't even actually invited, which I've said publicly. I don't know if I'm more offended about the fact.
Do you have freak-off FOMO?
Yeah, freak-off.
Little freak-off FOMO?
Yeah, like, what was wrong with me?
Yeah.
Well, was I not invited to this shindig?
Sorry.
So I see that, but it's like you can't assume guilt by association, and I speak personally here.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I mean, it's just because you've taken a picture with a celebrity who's now implicated in a potentially serious crime doesn't necessarily mean the person in the photo is, complicit or knew about it. But obviously, some people had to have known about it, right? I'm sure there are lots of other celebrities that were at these parties. The real question is, why is it that when celebrities, public figures, see with their own two eyes, someone in a position of power abusing that power and abusing others, they just kind of stay quiet about it?
Because they want a piece.
Yeah, and
it's so depressing.
It's not just a matter of wanting to please. They wanted the money, because a lot of these celebrities, and you don't want me to bring it up, but it is
not that
true.
I don't, honey. I just feel like there's an imbalance in all of our dialogue where you're like the Democrat.
It also happens to be true. Like the Democratic Party is in shambles right now, and they have a tremendous. They are in dire straits.
Could we not show comparisons like Matt Gaetz blowing coke with teenagers?
In P. Diddy's
I don't think
case,
this is a political issue. I think that this is a criminal issue.
Hold on. People refuse to say anything because people like Harvey Weinstein bankrolled the Democratic Party. He poured so much money into the DNC.
Don't you think it has something to do with the fact that he was tremendously rich, tremendously powerful, and he could crush them?
And that's
absolutely crush them, crush their careers, ruin their lives.
Refuse to say anything because they needed him
without
to
You'll never eat lunch in this town
his
again.
position of
Exactly.
It's real. I've actually lived it, not in this capacity, but it's like you go against the grain, you go against the narrative, or you speak up about something, even creatively, and it's like, you'll never eat lunch. That is real, the title of that book, You'll Never Eat Lunch in This Town Again. I jokingly tell the story of the first season of Biggest Loser, where they were tempting the contestants with literal temptations, and I was only 30, but I was really disturbed about it, and I'm participating in a reality show, and I wasn't, a reality person. I was an actual trainer, and I had flipped over the temptations, got in fights with the producers about it, and one of them walked out of the control room, and he's like, "You're never gonna work in this town again." And I was like, "What are you gonna do?
Wrong
You're
again,
gonna call
Bob.
every soccer mom?" But I'm not kidding, and it was always like, we got to blackball Jillian Michaels. We got to blackball. That is very real. I just never cared because my actual industry was fitness, not Hollywood. But it is real. You brought up something that really touched me, though.
The victim blaming.
Bingo. Can you talk about that?
And I've never said this on air, and I'm just going to pray that the people who are involved don't watch. I am a victim of violence, for more than a decade. So it's fine. I'm not here to ask for anyone's sympathy. I'm a big girl. I can handle it. I'm great. But it just breaks my heart to see her being victim shamed. And people saying, oh, because she took a settlement, suddenly what she's saying isn't true. Which is, two things can be true at once.
Surely.
And I think people just need to be much more respectful. This lady literally had a kid this weekend, too. And she still went to court to give her powerful story. I think we should give her some credit.
There's something to be said about Stockholm syndrome as well, right? People fall in love with their abusers, and that does not negate the abuse that they experience just because they stayed with them, went back to them, were under their control. Stockholm syndrome is a seriously studied mental condition, and it's something that nearly always occurs in these long-term abusive relationships.
Yeah.
So I think we can absolutely give Cassie grace.
Why do you
on that.
think, though, as a culture, we default to it? Because it is a thing. It is a huge thing. She was asking for it.
It is a huge thing. And I hate that line of thinking.
It's real, though.
Domestic violence is complicated, right? How many women, get beaten by their husbands over and over again, and they stay, and people blame the woman for staying, but psychologically speaking, it's a lot more complicated than people realize. Yeah. And so we should create pathways for people to feel comfortable leaving, you know what I'm saying? As opposed to judging them for staying. Because maybe they have all these ideas in their heads about if I leave, he's gonna find me and murder me. All the
sure.
There's a lot of fear.
Where am I going to go?
And that's for the average everyday person. Imagine someone in Cassie's position then, where Diddy has so much power and influence.
Exactly.
You don't know what blackmail or leverage he has over her as well. Like, it's difficult enough for the average everyday person to leave an abusive relationship like that, let alone someone in her situation.
And she was a kid. Let's not forget that she was a kid when this all started. She was 19 years old. And so he basically stole an entire decade away from this woman.
But you're still making excuses as to why she stayed, and we're not litigating, and I'm going to put a button on it, but it's something I do think we should all think about as a culture. Anybody watching, why we blame the victim. Why are we doing that? What is the vulnerability in that we just are like, no, this can't be real. It had to be her. Because again, the more we make excuses about why she stayed, the more it's like, but don't blame her, but don't blame her. And I get all of that. But the question is, why is anybody blaming her in the first place?
I hate to say it, but a lot of it does come down to misogyny. It is what it is. I know that people don't like to blame things on sexism, but in this case, in this particular case of domestic violence, I really think it is. And this is centuries of inertia that we're fighting against. And I've had direct experience. It is so hard to leave. So hard to leave, especially when financiers are involved. Like, you're going to be out on the alternative is to be out on the street.
Right, I get it.
You know, and Cassie was broke apart from this. She depended on him for her career. She signed a record deal for 10 records.
Gosh.
Her entire life was intertwined with this man's.
Thank you so much for watching Her Take. If you like the show, can you help us out by subscribing to the channel, clicking the notification button, sharing, commenting, joining the conversation? It helps us out a ton with the algorithm. We appreciate you.